Was already loud when I stepped into the backyard. Golden fairy lights hung from the trees, glinting off the rows of champagne flutes and rented white tablecloths. Everyone was dressed to the nines: tuxedos, silk dresses, patent leather shoes that had never touched dirt. And then there was me. Black jeans. A plain top. No jewelry, no designer bag, no pretending. Before we begin, drop a comment and tell us what would you do in this situation? Be honest, tell me in the comments below. We read every comment. Let's begin. I stood there for all of 3 seconds before I heard my dad's voice, laced with vodka and venom. Look who finally decided to show up, he called out from the middle of the party, raising his glass high. The disappointment of the family. Everyone turned. My brother Luke's graduation banner fluttered behind him, his Harvard cap tilted at a smug angle as he laughed and kissed his fiancée's cheek. Mom stood beside him, wearing a dress that probably cost more than I used to make in a month. I should have turned and walked away. But I didn't. I was done running. I came to say congratulations, I said, keeping my voice even, my expression calm. Oh, how sweet, my dad said with a mocking smile. And did you walk here? Or did your bus pass expire again? The crowd chuckled. I scanned their faces, aunts, uncles, cousins, every one of them sipping drinks I had once poured for them, smiling at jokes I used to cry over. I didn't come for the drinks, I said. Just to show my face. Yeah, and ruin the pictures, Dad muttered. Then louder. You know what? I'm tired of pretending. You don't belong here, Madison. I froze. He stepped forward, the music fading into the background as he pointed at me like I was dirt under his shoe. You're just a failure. No degree. No job we can brag about. Not even a boyfriend to pretend there's hope. Someone gasped. Get out, he barked. At least one child made us proud tonight. Luke stood taller. Mom smiled, and I walked. I didn't run. I didn't cry. I didn't even look back. But what they didn't know was that just last month, the tech startup I'd built from the ground up, alone, in a rented basement with secondhand equipment, had just been valued at $20 million. And the very people laughing now? They'd be in my inbox begging for help before the week was over. The cold air bit my face as I stepped into the night, but it was warmer than the humiliation still echoing in my ears. You're just a failure. My father's voice haunted me like it always had. And tonight, on a night that should have been about Luke, he made it clear once again. I wasn't family unless I came with a title, a diploma, or a fiancé. Preferably all three. I walked down the driveway as fireworks lit the sky behind me. Red, gold, white. They celebrated his golden boy, while the black sheep disappeared into the dark like I always did. But I wasn't crying. Not tonight. My phone buzzed in my pocket. A message from Jacob, my CTO, and the only person who knew the truth. Jacob. Investor signed. Wire confirmed. We just crossed $20.7 million valuation. You're officially the youngest female CEO to do it without outside family capital. Congrats, Madison. I stopped walking. For a second, I just stood on the sidewalk, letting the gravity of that moment replace the heaviness in my chest. I read it again. And again. I had done it. And none of them knew. They saw a failure because they never asked what I'd been building while they were mocking me behind wine glasses and hors d'oeuvres. They didn't see the overnight coding marathons. The nights I chose ramen over rent. The 12-hour days, the 20-pitch rejections, the debt. The silence. I climbed into my car, not the rust bucket they probably imagined I drove, but a black electric BMW, leased under my company's name, parked 2 blocks away on purpose. That night, I drove to my penthouse. Not an apartment, a penthouse. Fully paid, top floor, floor-to-ceiling windows, downtown Chicago. The key fob glowed blue as I unlocked the front door. And still, I didn't feel triumphant. Not yet. Because revenge, real, poetic revenge, isn't loud. It's precise. And I was going to give it to them. Starting with a formal invitation to a business networking brunch hosted by none other than their so-called failure. I opened my laptop and began writing the email. From Madison Rivers, CEO, Verge Form Labs. Subject: Exclusive brunch invitation, tech future and family wealth strategy. To Dad, Mom, Luke, Aunt Claire, Uncle Brad. They would show up. I knew they would. Curiosity, greed, regret. And when they walked through those glass doors, past the luxury cars, past the investor banners with my name on them, past the photographers and Forbes reps, they would realize I wasn't just making it. I'd already made it. And they'd missed it all. 3 days later, the conference room on the 61st floor was pristine. Glass walls shimmered in the morning light, the city stretching endlessly beyond them. My team moved like clockwork, coffee carts prepped, name cards aligned, and a discreet security detail just in case Dad decided to show his temper again. I stood in front of the floor-to-ceiling window, heels sharp, my fitted navy blue suit tailored perfectly to my frame. Minimal makeup. Hair pulled into a low, clean bun. Confident. Controlled. Not the girl they threw out of a backyard party. The Verge Form logo rotated slowly on the digital screen behind me. At 10:01 a.m., the elevator doors opened. Dad stepped out first, wearing the same smug look I'd seen my whole life, like the world owed him something. Mom followed, her pearls tight around her neck, clutching a knockoff designer bag she thought was real. Luke and his fiancée were whispering behind them. Aunt Claire and Uncle Brad trailed close, fake smiles plastered on their faces. They didn't recognize me at first. Not until I turned. Their steps slowed. Luke blinked. Wait. Mads. Dad narrowed his eyes. What is this? Why'd we get invited to some tech startup thing? I smiled politely. It's a private networking brunch. For families interested in generational investment and early-stage tech ownership. He scoffed. You're working here? No, I said, my voice firm. I built this company. Silence. You, my mom whispered, almost in disbelief. But you were always struggling. Living in those tiny apartments. I was coding. I cut in. Pitching. Building. While you were pretending I didn't exist unless I brought home something impressive. Luke stepped forward slowly, reading the signage. Verge Form, wait. I've heard of this. You guys just closed Series B with Founders Core, right? Your AI middleware was featured on Bloomberg last week. Dad looked between us. That's your company? My smile widened, sharp as glass. Yes. And we're projecting $80 million revenue next fiscal. The room froze. The waiter approached with a tray of sparkling citrus water, and I gestured casually toward the sleek digital panel behind me displaying the Forbes article with my face on the cover. From disowned to dominating, meet Madison Rivers, tech's new disruptor. My dad's hand trembled slightly as he reached for the drink, lips pressed into a hard line. He couldn't look me in the eye. But it wasn't over. Not even close. Because I hadn't just brought them here for the shock. I had a gift prepared. Something they'd never forget. Before we begin, I said to the room, I have a short message to play. Just a quick clip from my graduation night. You remember, the one none of you attended. I turned to the screen, hit play, and as the video rolled, me standing alone with a cake lit by a single candle, whispering a wish to make it on my own, I watched their faces fall. They remembered now. The night they left me sitting alone in a community college dorm room with no calls, no texts, no congratulations. I remembered it too. Every second. The room was still. The only sound was the soft hum of the HVAC and my own voice from years ago, echoing through the state-of-the-art sound system as the video played on the 8K screen. Happy graduation to me, I guess. The version of me on the screen laughed awkwardly, sitting alone on a thin dorm mattress, a plastic fork in one hand and a cheap grocery store cake in front of her. No balloons. No family. Just silence and the buzz of a dying desk lamp. Then the video cut out. I turned slowly. No one clapped. No one moved. My mom's hands were clasped tightly together in her lap. Her knuckles pale. Luke looked like he wanted to disappear. Even he, the golden boy, hadn't reached out that day. My father was the only one still standing, jaw clenched, hands behind his back like a soldier bracing for war. That's why you brought us here? To make us feel guilty. I didn't answer. I didn't need to. Because this wasn't just about guilt. This was about truth. I brought you here, I said slowly, to give you a chance to finally see me. Not through your pride, not through your standards. Just me. And, my dad said bitterly. And, I continued, to let you know what you threw away. A few of our investors had started filtering into the space, escorted by my team. Men and women in suits shaking hands, exchanging cards. My parents watched them, confused, anxious, out of place. I could have helped you when the market crashed, I added, turning to Aunt Claire. Your husband's portfolio sank 60%. I remember that week. Her eyes widened. Or when Luke lost his internship due to those misconduct rumors, I said evenly. I have emails. Screenshots. I could have buried him, but I didn't. Luke's jaw dropped. You knew about that? I know more than you think, I said. And I forgave more than you deserve. The door opened again. Another guest walked in. Then another. I looked down at my iPad. Right on time. My voice softened just enough to sound polite. You'll need to clear out in the next 10 minutes. This room is booked for our investor roundtable. Wait, what? My mom said, standing suddenly. But you invited us. I invited you, I said calmly, to show you what I built, not to keep you here. I walked to the elevator and pressed the button. Unless you're interested in investing, which I doubt. Minimum buy-in is $1 million. Liquid. Dad stepped forward, desperate. Madison, you're being dramatic. No, I replied, looking him square in the eye. I was quiet. I was obedient. I was invisible. Now I'm just done. He looked at me like he didn't recognize me anymore. Good. Because the girl they kicked out 3 nights ago was gone. She was the same girl they'd kicked down for years, during family dinners when they changed the subject if I spoke, during holidays when they forgot to send me invitations. I was that girl once. Now I was the woman they had to beg for a meeting. Luke stepped toward me. Madison. Come on. You're my sister. Funny, I said, one brow arched. You weren't my brother when you stood there laughing while Dad threw me out. He looked down. I took a slow breath and pointed toward the glass doors. Security will escort you to the elevators. Please don't touch anything on the way out. As they were let out, shoulders hunched, eyes darting, pride shattered, I turned back to my team and smiled. All right, I said, my voice crisp, commanding. Let's get back to work. We're just getting started. 2 weeks later, my name was everywhere. Forbes, TechCrunch, Incorporated magazine. Even CNN aired a short business feature on Vergeform, calling us the next billion-dollar solution in AI security infrastructure. Every article mentioned my name, Madison Rivers. Every photograph, crisp, high-res, polished, showed the same confident woman in fitted blazers and bold lipstick standing at the edge of innovation. And every email I got from my family came from a place of desperation. First, it was my mom. Subject: please call me sweetheart. I didn't mean to laugh that night. I was just nervous. Your father was drinking too much again. I want to fix this. Then Luke. Subject: investment idea? Hey Mads, congrats on all the success. I was wondering if I could run a startup idea by you? Something small, just need a bit of seed funding. Think you'd love it. I didn't reply. And then came Dad. Subject: from your father. I know I haven't been the man I should have been. I was raised to be tough, and maybe I was too tough on you. But I'm proud of what you've done. Truly. I could use your help. Just one meeting. For a few minutes, I stared at the screen, fingers hovering over the keyboard. I could have said a lot. Instead, I forwarded the email to my assistant with a note. If he wants a meeting, tell him the calendar is booked for the next 6 months. He can submit a request like everyone else. Because here's the thing, people don't change the moment you succeed. They reveal who they always were. My father never needed me to prove my worth. He needed to face his own reflection and didn't like what he saw. I didn't build Vergeform to prove him wrong. I built it because when the world silenced me, belittled me, underestimated me. I kept working. When I cried alone in stairwells and borrowed money to eat and coded until my wrists ached, no one applauded. No one believed in me. So, I believed in myself. That belief turned into vision. That vision turned into code. And that code turned into a company now backed by Founders Core, Klein Ventures, and Stoneworth Capital. The girl they kicked out? She was now the reason they couldn't sleep at night. And to be honest, I didn't feel angry anymore. I felt free. That Sunday, I walked past the old community center on Hawthorne Avenue where I used to volunteer, just to stay off the streets after my first apartment eviction. I signed a check for $500,000 and handed it to the director to build a tech lab for girls like me. Because real success doesn't scream at people who doubted you. It changes lives without needing their approval. One afternoon, I walked into a bookstore and overheard a group of high school girls pointing at a magazine. "That's her," one of them whispered. "She's the one who didn't go to Harvard. The one they laughed at. And now she owns half of downtown." I turned, smiled gently, and said, "Hard work is louder than hate." They lit up, took selfies, and I signed their copies. I wasn't the invisible girl anymore. And the next time someone shouted, "You're just a failure," I'd remember the moment I left that graduation party. Not broken, not defeated, but reborn. Because my story didn't end that night. It started there. And it